Hi Susan, I'm taking a look at your Ancestor project. So text is easy to read, slides are great. I'm glad you've got your narration in audio and it's written out. So what I would say, and I'm going to tell you some things that I'm telling most everybody, which is I'd like more of a lot of the things that you're doing. So you say he authored official publications for Cromwell's government. You have that here, but it's not actually written here necessarily. Make sure they're more parallel, what's in your slide and what's written out. If you're going to have text, it should be this. You should be covering that same text in your narration, and cut down the amount of text. I don't know if we need to know that he achieved these, you could say he was educated at Cambridge. I mean, kind of cut down some of the text on your slides. Tell us a little more about Cromwell's government. What did Cromwell's government believe in? A little more about what John Milton believed in as far religiously. You talk about the fact that Milton tells a biblical tale of Lucifer, later known as Satan, etc., etc. Correct? I'm glad that you have this. What differed in Milton's tale from the story in Genesis? But this needs to be explained a lot more, right? Why does he why does he give us Satan's perspective? And it's interesting because it's sort of, even though how it seems that, Milton is assuming that people are going to hate Satan, it kind of turns around and bites Milton in the ass, because the Romantics love Paradise Lost because you get it from Satan's perspective. They actually kind of feel bad for Satan at times. So it's funny because, Milton was writing it to, get all these ideas across about, how do I put this? Because I just had re-listened to this. I had it on Audible. I was listening to this again, to Paradise Lost. Really tries to get across the idea of why humans fell, and the sacrifice that Jesus Christ makes. Because he says, he'll be the one who goes. He will do, to try to save them. And I think that was ultimately the point. So I'm not quite sure why Milton gave so much from Satan's perspective, other than the fact that it's very political as well. So if it was just supposed to be religious, that would be one thing. But it's also very political. And I think you do talk a little bit about that here, that freedom of will, civil liberty. Talk more about how those things have to come into play in Paradise Lost. You talk some more about it in this slide. Let's see. You said by giving Satan characteristics such as faith, patience, and fortitude, Milton attempted to introduce a new idea of Christian heroism. Okay, so you're taking some of this from this Poetry Foundation. But I don't know what you mean by that. You need to explain that further. So it's like you're getting some information from another source. Make sure you fully understand it, and then make sure you explain it to your audience, because I'm not sure what you mean by that. So I'm kind of lost with this slide. So explain it more in your own words, and bring some in, make it really clear for your audience. So this is fine. The validating the influence section is perfectly fine. And then in the connections, you have Shelley is at heart a rebel, and by taking these lines and putting them so prominently at the beginning, why does that make her a rebel? So again, fully explain and support what it is that you're saying. And I'm not disagreeing with you, but you've got to have the support for it. Yes, the creature reads it. You have, I believe she utilized Milton's book as a tribute to his contribution to the literary world. Maybe. That could very well be, but why? Why does she have the creature read it? Why is that important? I mean, because later he references it, right? He doesn't read the Bible. He reads Milton's Paradise Lost. There's a huge difference between them. You see what I'm saying? It's like he doesn't understand the full context. He has this. One, if you've ever read Paradise Lost, it's extremely beautiful. It's this beautiful poetic thing, but it's also at times, it really reinforces how amazing men are and how subservient women are supposed to be. Like, seriously. And to the point where, I have a hard time getting through that section of Eve, like, oh, Adam, you are so smart. And it's all about how men are all logical and, strong and whatever. And women are the emotional feeling aspect. And, they're there to serve the man and bleh. In my opinion. So there's a lot of that, and there's a lot of reinforcement of Christ being the Savior, like how bad it was and how badly we needed to be saved. It's also how frightening hell is, these descriptions of what's going on. But it's also, like I said, extremely political as far as it's a battle. They make Lucifer out to be this, like a general, right? He has an army. And so there's a lot going on with that too. So for your analysis, it just needs to be developed more. So you've got the creature comparing himself to Adam, and then you have, oh, hold on just one second. I'm getting some buzzing. Okay, I'm sorry about the weird break there. Okay, so you talk about him comparing himself to Adam, and then, so here, where was it? So with the connections, I wouldn't keep putting connections at the top, or if you do, maybe put like connections, and then, creature reads Paradise Lost, and then connections. You've got creature compares himself to Adam. So then maybe have, connections. Creature compares himself to Adam. Have it at the top, and then keep it consistent so we know like which connection you're talking about in each one of these. So again, here is where he says, I should be, that I am thy creature, I ought to be thy Adam, but I am rather the fallen angel whom thou drivest from joy. And so here it's like, the creature compares himself to Adam and Satan, or, questions if he's Adam or Satan, something like that. And then this one comparing himself to Satan. So just some clarity, and then just develop it further. How and why does Mary Shelley use these connections? Explain it thoroughly. Support what it is that you're saying. So explain and support how you're talking about all this. I posted a video in the announcements. I don't know if I said this earlier in your video or not. I'm sorry. I've made like a gazillion of these videos, and sometimes I forget who I've said this to already. But there's a video in the announcements that talks about this project and the issues students tend to have during the drafting process. And so it talks about how to develop your analysis and things like that. So make sure you watch that. There's also all of those resources on our D2L site, under Learning Materials, Ancestor Project. If you have questions about this video, about any of the resources I provided, just please get a hold of me. If you want me to take a look at a second draft of this, then you need to make an appointment with me so I can take a look at it, okay? Just let me know what you need.